Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a really good weekend. It was a full weekend for the Prestons. Just tons of stuff to do. Pardon me. But it's good to be back with you. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. This is what I call my morning musings. We are focused on 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. I've been sharing with you the linguistic study of what Paul really meant when he said, we shall meet him. That word that is translated as meet, Greek word apontesis, simply does not mean what most of Orthodox Christianity has taught us. In other words, Christ is coming to take the church off of the earth when the church flies up to meet him in the clouds and then goes back to heaven. Just doesn't bear that meaning. Now, you really need to get a copy of my book. Whoops, about to have a catastrophe here. My book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, The Wedding of the King of Kings. This book will absolutely blow your mind with its examination of the linguistics, the Greek words that are there that demonstrate that Paul is not talking about the literal removal of the church or believers from the earth. It is a restoration of the life that was lost in Adam, the restoration of the fellowship that was lost in Adam due to sin. Now watch this. As the title suggests, we shall meet him in the air. Well, everyone knows, don't they? The air is the stuff that we breathe, or it's the atmosphere. No, that's not the way Paul is using this. Now, we have already seen that Christ took the dead with him at his ascension. That was in the unseen realm. The word air, translated as air, the word air likewise refers to the spiritual dimension, the unseen spiritual dimension. The Greeks and the Hebrews both, pardon me, of the first century, when you talked about air in this sense of, in this prophetic sense, we're not thinking of the stuff that we breathe. Notice what Paul says in Ephesians chapter 2. And he says, and you he made alive, who were once dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, now watch this, according to the course of the world, according to the prince of the power of the air. You see, in the ancient world, it was believed that the spiritual dimension that is all around us was dominated by the forces of evil. It's where the demons and the devils lived. There was a conflict going on between the heavenly forces and the spiritual forces, and that battle was fought in the air, not in the physical air, not in the physical clouds, in the spiritual dimension. As Paul said, we do not battle according to the flesh. Just like Paul said, that they were in a spiritual conflict that was taking place, quote, in the heavenly places, unquote. You see, we have to get our heads and our minds and our intellect around what the first century readers would have thought when you're talking about Christ coming in the air. As I point out in my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, this is a way of saying that Christ was coming in total victory over all of the evil forces. And he was going to be exalted and glorified, magnificently manifested in that victory. Just as Jesus promised in John chapter 12, now is the judgment of this world, now is the prince of this world shall be cast out. Well, where was the prince of this world? In the air. the unseen realm. And just like Paul said in Romans 16:20, and now the God of peace shall shortly crush Satan under your feet. We must, as I just suggested, get our heads around what the first century world would have thought when it thought of Christ coming in the air. Just as we have seen, Christ was coming on the clouds, not literal physical clouds, in the spiritual realm of majesty, in the spiritual realm of conflict, in the spiritual realm, his victory would be complete. So, for the first century church to be caught up to meet him in the air was to be completely vindicated, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, to be completely identified as the true sons of God, Romans 8, and to be glorified with him in the spiritual dimension. Look, I discuss all of this in my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, the wedding of the King of Kings. Paul wasn't talking about physical air, and he wasn't talking about the physical atmosphere. He was talking about the spiritual victory of Christ over the spiritual wickedness in high places. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. Again, get a copy of my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, the Wedding of the King of Kings. Go to my website, eschatology.org, BibleProphecy.com. Order the book, mention that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. We've got more. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you on the flip side.